And hello everybody. Now usually I would be doing this in a stream fashion, but something I was talking to my radical talents with here in the Discord server was an idea, since I can't stream from my horrible Wi-Fi issues, that I would start explaining my thought process to animating all these guys. Now we have our fabulous, absolutely glorious Skywing here. And something that I need to do is make that grid invisible. Look at that, you guys know how to do that now. I'm gonna do this small, because this is one thing I've noticed a lot of animators missing out on. And the one we're gonna do is wings open. Now, it seems a little simple, but this is your freebie video, so you're gonna live with that. Some of these models aren't easy to grab, but my thought process to start these is the fact that they have a lot of people figure wings for arms, and every branch of the wing is your fingers. But you also have to consider they can only bring this up so high, so it's the elbow that would be naturally bent and raised a little more. And to make sure you mirror it properly, I would take one of the two at a time. So I'd do one side and do the other, ignore the elbow bend, because I wasn't supposed to do that yet when it comes to this process, but it's more so about seeing what's level, and then it's easier to come over here and twist this. And then, see, it's already different. You guys may not see it, but an animator's eye... Alright, anyway. Waving features for the weight. This is a perfect model and perfect animation to explain that. So as your arms are out, you can only turn your shoulder so much. So from there, you have to rely on your elbows. So it's the same physics as this, except there is no shoulder component. This is counting as your shoulder, which I tend to think of kind of like this. Now, before I do most animations, I do end up stretching these fingies in the whole pose of the first frame. That way I can work at it portions at a time. It is the same kind of idea as an artist doing thumbnailing, if we know what that is. I didn't. It took me ages to figure that out. In fact, I only figured that out around earlier this, like past winter, actually. Oh, God, the accent. But as you can see, if I don't do one each, it's a little off. So this one's a little too much spread. Come back in. And you can tell I check these very often. A little too often. But as of bringing these in a bit, I can look from above and go like, wait a minute. This one's more forward than this one, so I can just notch that. And it's basically a game of spot the difference. Like how this one is still higher up. See, look at that. Now you can see, like, this one needs to be moved up because of the differences between the membrane space. And there we go. Now he's perfectly level and nobody's gonna know. But wait, no he's not, because this one is higher than this one. So you have to raise that up and then you're fine. Because I didn't do my normal process like an idiot. And then here's where it starts to come into play of what I was talking about. See, your fingers are already naturally bent. If you let your arm hang and you move it up and down, you already have the effect that most people don't understand when it comes to animation. And it's the after rotation that's naturally bent by weight, the joints, and all of that in general. Now, here what I'm doing is considering how fingers naturally have a bend to it when you don't have much focus. Because if this is your wrist, this is every single finger, you're not going to be thinking all too much about it. So I bring these down, and I do tend to play a little more on the spread, but since skywings are so massive, I can't really do that. So compared to just flat out and then naturally bent, you can tell it feels more realistic, and that's what I like about having these animations. Excuse me. Feeling a little more realistic at the same time, but also still having a cartoonish kind of feel. I don't want too much realism. I don't want to lean too much on like physics. I didn't take physics. I'm an idiot. But what I have, a lot of people tend to notice, I have a major itch for details, and I tend to yap a lot. So here we go. This makes sense for a video. And as I bend these down, I have to check again. Hey, does this look right? No. Why? Because this one is taller than this one. So I had to bump it up. Once again, we're now level. But see, with skywings, I'm like, do I move this? Do I want to move that? Is that something your thumb's gonna do? He's kind of intimidating. He's arching his wings out. He's like a damn vulture. And I think in this case, I kind of want to change it up, because usually I don't move this. Hello? There we go. I think I'm going to rotate it outward, just to give it a further feeling of how a skywing would act. And that's something you will notice with every single tribe, is I like the realism, but not only do I like the realism, I like to base different tribes off of different features. So, Mudwings, I've actually only just started animating, and my immediate thought was a Komodo dragon. And then everyone's gonna go like, wait a minute, I thought the Nightwing was based off a Komodo dragon. And yeah, you're right. But when it comes to body weight, the proportions, smaller but tougher legs, the back feet even, it all leans to a Mudwing. And you don't have to follow to exact, no, not in the slightest. In fact, differentiation is a good thing. But in my mind, here, I'll explain this a bit, but in my mind, the proportions of a Mudwing are closely reliant to a crocodile, but also quick, so you have to consider a Komodo dragon. And then when you're looking at the Sandwing, he's got more weight, the flight has more weight, but he's still really able to move. So I look at coyotes and wolves. Skywing, I don't remember exactly what I based their running off of, but I do know their flight. When it comes to flying as a skywing, and I'm still coding the weight differentiations, but if you ever saw one in game, you will usually see them gliding. And because of that, they were these big wings, their mountainous region, they're all based off a bird that I can't think of the name of. I'll probably edit that in. And they can glide for miles at a time without a single flap of their wings, since they don't have to worry about the difference of having too much energy spent. They follow the mountain current. So instead of me rambling like a child, I'm gonna get back to the animation portion of this. And what you'll usually see in all my animations is there's a lot of motion. So this is the explaining part that I totally said I was gonna get to whatsoever. And a good idea to start, for all you newer animators at least, is taking it to the middle, since we immediately have an idea of, okay, this is a little quick. I'm going to stretch this out, because this is my acting breathe, like a breathing kind of motion. And then I'm like, if I decide something's moving too much, then something a lot of people don't think of is taking it halfway. Although I have to do a lot of scrolling for this. Taking the halfway point and then putting it there, and you will get the same idea with less going on. So I'm going to stretch this out near to 2. These guys have huge wings. They're massive, a lot of weight, tiring to move. And once I have like backwards and forwards, something else I'll do is I'll come over here to give it further motion by considering what has the most going on. So what I mean by that is, if something has a major concentration of moving up or down or left and right, I will do that first. But if I want to play with the weights and have it more all around, then I'll come in at the secondary angle and consider, oh, well, if he's already moving his shoulders out and back because he's trying to be intimidating, he's trying to be large. Well, from here, I'll go like, wait a minute, he's got a lot of weight. So he comes forward. Well, a predator would open his wings and bring his arms up when he's forward, yeah? So the secondary motion is going to be upwards. And I'm going to apply that to the other side. Now, when you look at it, it feels like breathing, and he's got a little bit of weight to it. He's going back, he's raising his wings. Well, now we have to consider each of these for all those secondary weights. So I'm going to come over here, and I think this time around, I'm going to play with... See, I'm going to have to come up with a name, but I'm going to call it like a secondary reaction. So if this is the primary, it's at the flop effect. When you move your up and down, arm up and down, we're going to talk about the good old flop effect. We're going to call it that. So this first section, he's moving his arms back. He has no interest to having his arms out. Now, it'll recognize that the first frame, he has his arm like this if you start somewhere else in here. Don't have to worry about that. So there's a lot of back. Well, not a lot of back, but there is a back focus. So I'm going to move this inward. But over here, like a second off, trying to keep the gap going on here. So this is 18. This is 26. 18, 26. We're looking around here. And since this was inward, I'm going to go outward. And I'm going to show you what in the world just happened here. So, right now, okay, a little too much. Because we have to consider what's going on over here. So we can bring that back, and then suddenly, there's more life to it. But you can still see it's a little much, so we bring this in a bit, or you can just come over here and half it. And something I also have to consider is doing it too much will not allow this to bend at all. This is how I reenact the IK with the legs a lot. But it's also a difficulty when it comes to slower animation. You want this to feel consistently moving, but you don't want it to just be plain. Now, I could just skip this limb and go straight to the wrist to also apply this effect, because he's just holding his arm out. You're not going to be bending the arm elbow too much. But I think I do kind of want it in this situation. So I'll take this and move it a little bit. I'm going to spread this one more and go back. Now, sometimes you can also solve this by coming to the half here. And, hello? Okay, so this is the left. It's a lot of parts to a wing. Sorry. This is, for this R3. So we come to the half here to solve the problem and come over here. But in the cost of that, you're gonna have to drag this one out so you could put this here because it still has the same kind of idea to going on with the motion. So now it feels a little more natural, but it's still sudden. It's still kind of moving sudden. So I come over here, come to the half point here, snag that, and it's just a little different, but sometimes you have to make sacrifices and choose, okay, do I want that here? Do I want that one there? It just depends how you're looking at it. Because now this one has no effect. So you could take that out entirely. Or you can revise it as, again, go backward. But sometimes doing that too much will get you a little janky. So I could also deem this to go forward as an after effect. And there we go. We already have an idea for what we're looking at. So this one, the forwards, is now here. So I can make sure these look the same. And then this one was the backward. So taking the midpoint there and put it there. I'm gonna drag this out, put it there. Maybe it's because I'm recording, I'm messing this up. But again, forward, and then this starts to focus going backward. And again, it feels more breathing-like. And it also has a little bit of weight contribution because of the main movement here that I don't have to consider it. But when it comes to wrists, over here, I don't care, I'm going to say wrists anyway. Instead of wrists, or wrist, I'm just going to call it a wrist. There we go. Well, now the wrist is extra floppy if you move it side to side. Like your own wrist, side to side, it has more effect. So there's a lot of forward and then back. So this coming back, I'm going to put that here. But since it's sudden, I'm going to have to do the reaction here so it can stretch back out. So we have a little bit of a drag. I'm going to pull this here. And again, we have a more lively effect to it. Now I do have to consider the fingers next, but I'm going to look at here and then see these are right here in between the elbows effects. And again, this is dragging forward, so this is the matchup point forward, but then he kind of has the reaction of pulling back already. So now both of these, well, that one I did too much, so I'm going to grab, hello, a little more in, and then this is too much of a reaction, gonna pull it forward. And there we go. Here comes the fun part. Well, my fun part right now is realizing this is off. I don't know how many people are going to be yelling at me about this, but we're going to put this over here. Ta-da. It's now even. And this is going to be the after effect a lot of people don't consider. The fingies. You could have this. It's fine. I don't mind it. But if you want, again, more of a lively feel, or how I animate just in general, you have to start moving these fingies. I could start from the left side. Let's do that. And well, now that we have all of these in the same reaction effect, I could start here, or I could start here. If it were a lot more force, like flying, I would have all three of these bent. But since these are just hung out fingers, to my mind, there is not a lot of motion starting from here. In fact, I'd say these have the first effect in motion, because fingers are tougher. And I could just have the same effect, it doesn't really matter, but this is my thought process. The start of the finger is more stubborn when you move it. If you move your hand side to side, the start of your finger sure does the most of the motion, but you only see it when it comes to like the second row and then this last row. So what I'm going to do is consider this gets dragged back. I see here, what's wing 12? Alright, I'm going to, Skywing is laid out a little differently for me. So this comes forward, but this comes back as a quicker motion. So when this gets yanked, I'm going to come here and consider dragging this back. And actually, I should probably come here and yank this. So yanking here, but then it already has an effect of the bounce, so I'm going to pull these back. Not too much, not too little. And again, it gives a more breathy feel. Now to affect all these little fingies, what I like to do is have them later. So this is my finger effect right here. I know this is my finger effect because it's absolutely off center. So considering that this comes up here to drag back, I'm gonna take this second one and do it a second layer on both these sides. And then see where it folds in. So like right around here, this starts to bounce back. Sometimes this can get a little cramped. So I'm gonna pull this and pull this. And something I tend to do accidentally is hold shift, because that's smart. No, it's not. And just like that, both of these have their own rhythm and have their own source of motion. Now this does get a little stuck, so I can revision that later. It's not a huge deal. These are all After Effects. Taking this, one, see that's where one stops, you can tell, because it starts to pull back. This one starts to pull back. Two starts to pull back, it's a little more subtle, so I'm gonna go 3. Take 3, hold up, and once these start to pull in, I'll pull this one in late. Even more flowy motion. We all love the flowy motion. And the more I look at it, maybe this is too much flowy motion. Maybe I should count out this elbow here or do the wrists later. It's all up to you, but if you change this now, you're gonna have to do these again. But this is my favorite part of animation, so you do what you want. Sometimes the change is so small you don't have to worry about it. But with you all having an idea now, I do the primary motion of dragging this in, and what I should have done is just... See, now I lost my spot, so I have to recalculate it. This one gets stuck there, and I'm gonna stretch this out here. It's subtle, it's little, but it brings the entire animation together as a whole. I could do the fingertips, but I don't think I'm actually going to do the fingertips for this one. And yeah, this comes to a close of the first animation thought process of mine. And hopefully you all will have a little bit more breath or breathing to your animations, because all this subtle motion really pulls it together. And I know a lot of beautiful games that just don't hold the same amount of small consideration to their animations, because there's just a lot to do. All these dragons tend to have 30 animations each, at least what's playable right now, 30 animations each. But I love animations so much that I will willingly do more. Hell, I'll do hybrids. Like the hybrids, a Sky Dom is gonna follow the animations of the Skywing in general. But if you look at the current hybrids done right now, they do have differentiation. I have to go in with every animation to make sure it aligns, but some I'll completely redo because I want to try what this does. Or, oh, it's a stinger, he's gonna curl it up more. Oh, I want the sail to move, I will do that too. I can definitely actually do that. But as this comes and goes, I'm gonna quit yapping and cut this off here.